What is your perspective on all that we've seen happen here?
I mean, honestly, it's disappointment, and disappointment that keeps happening. It's one thing to make the comments. It's one thing, everything that happened, but how the Astros organization has handled it has been wrong. And it's still, I mean, the fact that Jeff Luhnow, he had the press conference, and yet he is still not picked up the phone to call the reporter that they wrongly accused of being wrong in everything that she said has still not happened. His quote was that, you know, he's been very busy. He's in the World Series. It's very hard. I get it. Do the right thing. And I think that's where it's clear to me that within the organization, especially for the things that have come out post-comment, have been wrong. And the way that they handle it has to be approved by multiple people. And yet it still keeps coming out there.
Well, their initial reaction, their initial inclination, obviously, was to completely deny that anything wrong had happened in the clubhouse on that night and to discredit the reporter and Sports Illustrated. To your point, not until yesterday did they acknowledge that had been wrong. They have still not reached out to the reporter. Jeff Luhnow said that he was not able to do so. She was in the room at the time. Yes. She was at the press conference where this took place. So I guess if we can try and put a constructive note to this, what can come from this that is positive? What can be learned from this episode that takes place while the sport is in the midst of its World Series, so as many eyeballs as can possibly be on it? What can we take away from this to make sure this sort of thing stops happening?
I think what we take away is the fact that we cannot stand by, be stubborn. I mean, what I feel from the Astros is that even though they're saying some of the right things, they don't feel it. There isn't this genuine sense of, oh my gosh, we screwed up flat out. And not only are we firing people, but I want to find out who are the ones that said it's okay for us to defend and then put out there that this woman is wrong and we are going to come after her. It doesn't stop with Brandon Taubman. There are so many more people, and I feel like that's what we're learning. And what disappoints me the most, if this doesn't get blown up in the media, no one gets fired.
Oh, yeah.
It's clear to me that the Astros organization have been like, she's wrong, we're right, let's move on and win a World Series and not think twice about it.
100%. If you go back to the original, they were mortified. They were much more emotionally invested in denying the story than they were in making it right yesterday. So I agree with you. Sometimes there's just the way your gut is. Yeah. The way your gut reacts to something, and their gut obviously was a lot more into trying to defend themselves and close ranks than it was doing the right thing yesterday.
Absolutely, and that's my whole feeling is you're right. Stephanie's right there in the room. Stand up and be like, I am sorry. We were in the wrong, and just have us feel and understand that this was not okay. And I get it, like things happen. You're gonna have, we see it all the time, people within your organization that are gonna do the wrong thing. They're gonna say the wrong thing. But how you defend them is so important, especially on this stage, and what message we are creating for our players, for our fans, for the game itself, and ultimately for society, because this is a bigger issue beyond baseball.
It also isn't something that should have come completely out of nowhere, because they made the decision to acquire the player in the first place.
Yeah.
So obviously this has been a topic of discussion there for over a year. So to be as unprepared for something like this to have come up, I understand they're in the midst of the World Series. But there is one thing to trying to win. There's another thing to making a statement about what we stand for. And in that regard, at least in my opinion, I'll give you the final word here. In my opinion, even with what they did yesterday, they have failed completely.
Yeah, and I do credit A.J. Hinch in this. In the mess and disaster that this is, they have a manager that has said the right thing, that has come out. And even when they did acquire their closer, Roberto Osuna, he was not immediately on board and was very public about that. And he's the one that has to be in the clubhouse. You got to understand, there's players right now that have lost 2 games, and they're having to deal with this firestorm that's around them, and they've had to deal with this in the moment that they acquired Osuna. But A.J. Hinch has said the right thing, and he's the middle person between the front office and their team. They got to go out and win tonight.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.